We settle in this morning with the ringing of our peace bowl. As with the butterfly effect, may our small congregations hope for peace among families, friends, and community, ripple through our globe and promote a greater push among world leaders for peace on our fragile planet. Additionally, we acknowledge that these beautiful lands that we love and on which we live are the unceded, ancestral, and historical lands of the Yavapai people. Good morning, all, and welcome to Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation, where love and community are at the heart of each service. It is good to be together on this lovely, sticky, humid morning. I see some survivors here, both here and on Zoom, from last night's beach party, and I see you washed up on the beach this morning. We're glad that you made it. I'm Bobby Bollinger, and I'm serving as your worship associate this morning. We extend a hearty welcome to visitors. We love visitors here at Granite Peak. And if this is your first time with us, or perhaps you are returning after a long hiatus, if you wouldn't mind just raising your hand and giving us a wave so we can identify you. Wow, we've got a third of the people here are visitors. That's wonderful. Well, we have a very lively, conversation-filled coffee hour following our service, so we would invite you to stay so that we can talk with you a while and get to know you a bit better. Our minister, the Reverend Michelle LaGrave, is away on summer hiatus right now, but she will return to the pulpit in mid-August. Our guest speaker this morning, Reverend Doug Bland, is no stranger to Granite Peak. Due to the popularity of his previous presentations, he has been asked to return to share with us his wisdom around the sacredness of water. Doug is the founder, former executive director, and current ambassador of the Arizona Interfaith Power and Light, which is an organization which presents a spiritual response to our current climate crisis. He retired as pastor from the Community Christian Church in Tempe, where he served for 23 years, and that is where he began his long association and friendship with Leslie and Patrick Grady, who have brought him here to speak with us many times. Doug has served as adjunct faculty at the South Mountain Community College Storytelling Institute, but perhaps more importantly, is enjoying the gifts of being a new grandfather. Welcome back, Doug. Let us now prepare ourselves for the morning service with our gathering music. Thank you, Jake. We appreciate you having you here while Lena is not at the keyboard, and we're happy that you're getting to experience our brand new Steinway piano. We now join congregations from all over the world in our tradition of lighting our Unitarian Universalist chalice. Our chalice lighter this morning is Sandy Brito. We light this chalice today to recognize today's water theme with this Indigenous declaration on water. Water sustains all life. Her songs begin in the tiniest of raindrops, transform to flowing rivers, travel to majestic oceans and thundering clouds, and back to earth again. When water is threatened, all living things are threatened.
Good morning. I'm glad to be back here again. This is probably the fourth or fifth time that I've spoken at Granite Peak UU, and I always enjoy being here, especially in the summer when we get to come up and enjoy cooler air. Thank you to my wife Amy, who is here. Raise your hand. And thank you to Nina and Tom, who were our host last night. Really appreciate your hospitality. A friend, David Wells, is here. David was a member of the Quaker community in Tempe, where I live, and helped us organize a Care for Creation event that Community Christian Church hosted. And I remember students from Prescott College with their teacher, Doug Humes, came to that event, and what I remember these students from Prescott College saying is, we didn't know that Christians cared about the environment. And it's about the saddest commentary on Christian faith that I think I've ever heard. So a little literary quiz to begin our worship together. If you recognize where this quote comes from, just raise your hand. And it took me a while to figure out where it was. So by the end of my presentation, the opening words, if you haven't figured it out yet, it'll be in the footnotes. So, he who prayeth best, loveth best, all creatures great and small. Anybody remember where that comes from? I had trouble placing it, but I see a few hands. Yeah? So Amy and I, a couple months ago, had the opportunity to go to New Zealand, and we hiked and explored around the South Island, and then we went up to the North Island for a bit, and one of the things we did was paddle in a canoe on the Wanganui River. The Wanganui River, thanks to the influence of the Maori, the indigenous people there, has been designated as a person. So it has the legal rights that other human beings should have. So it was a powerful place to be. And as we were walking around the place where the Wanganui River flows out into the Tasman Sea, I looked down and found this rock that has haunted me ever since. You probably can't see it from where you are, but I'll pass it around. It's a rock that has clearly a mouth and an eye, and I wondered, I think this rock has something to tell me if I only have ears to hear. So Tom, would you come up and get this rock and then pass it around, people? So when we were there, we went to an albatross center, and we got to see these great, beautiful white birds with a wingspan that's the largest that any bird has, a seabird that mates for life and comes to land only to mate and to feed the young, spends 90% of the time out at sea. And so I started thinking, albatross, I've heard about albatrosses before. And I finally remembered that it's from the story of the Rime of the Ancient Mariner that I've heard and read when I was in high school, but it took a while to remember that. So briefly, the story is this mariner books passage on a ship that is sailing in the Antarctic, and a storm comes up and sends them off into the ice and the cold, and there are big glaciers, and the sea freezes beneath their boat, and the wind is blowing, and there's snow, and they're stuck there, and they'll die there. But they look up, and through the mist, they can see this albatross circling above the boat. And as they watch the albatross, this warm wind comes and starts melting the ice. And soon they're free, and the albatross goes with them as they sail for day after day until something happens. The mariner takes out his crossbow for no apparent reason that Samuel Taylor Coleridge tells us, just for the hell of it, shoots the albatross, and it falls to the deck of the ship. And at first, the sailors are upset because they think maybe this albatross helped free them from the ice. But then they think maybe it was the albatross that was encasing us in the ice. So, they're kind of a fickle group that are led more by superstition than they are by a consistent moral compass. So they decide that, it was just a bird. It didn't matter that much. And when they started thinking that way, the wind stopped, and they were becalmed. And they were running out of food, and they were running out of water. And the sailors begin to die, and the mariner is left alone. And with the last breath, these sailors hang the dead albatross around the neck of the mariner. He sails along, the only one on the ship, the dead eyes of the other sailors looking at him, and he's trying to pray, but he can't pray. Until one night, when the moon is shining on the sea, he looks down and he sees these sea snakes, this aquatic life that's swimming beside the sea. And it's something he might not have ever noticed before. Or if he noticed it, it would be repulsive. But he looks at that, and in the moonlight, he sees the sparkling blue and green and silver, the phosphorescence of the sea, and he's moved. And he blesses the sea snakes. And when he does, the wind picks up and the boat is able to sail back home. But the mariner spends the rest of his life with this penance, with this burden to share this story with whoever he can find. And the message of the story is, of course, he who prayeth best loveth best, all creatures great and small. So in that spirit, we gather together to worship.
We'll now have our opening hymn, which is number 1046. In the teal hymnal, the words will also be on the screen. Shall we gather at the river? Please rise in body or spirit as you're able. Please join me in saying the words to our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this congregation, the quest for truth its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, thus do we covenant together. As we move to the ritual of our morning offering, we are reminded that Granite Peak thrives in part from members' gifts of time, talent, and treasure. When we give ourselves to this community, we receive tenfold back again the blessings that this congregation has to offer. Additionally, each month we choose a nonprofit in our community to support through our Seeds of Support program. This coming Friday will be the last day to donate to July's recipient, which is the Hungry Kids Project of Chino Valley. Information about them is on the screen. If you would like for your entire check to go to Seeds of Support, please make a memo of that in the memo line of your check. The morning offering will now be taken. Well deserved. Thank you, Jake. We acknowledge the generosity of spirit expressed through these gifts, so freely given. What is given in love is received with much gratitude. Amen, and blessed be. We have recently been rejoicing over the life-giving, refreshing, and often turbulent rains of our current monsoon season. So I invite us to join together for a meditation on water. Make yourselves comfortable, take a deep breath, center yourselves, and close your eyes if you wish, as we contemplate the multifaceted, life-giving gifts that we receive from this precious resource. Purification in multiple religions. Many cultures use water as a sacred practice to heal internal turmoil. Hindu devotees take a holy dip in the Ganges River to purify the soul. Islam has a daily ritual of ablution to cleanse inside and outside the body before prayers. In Christianity, the ritual of baptism through holy water symbolizes purity. Likewise, other cultures use water to cleanse the spirit and eliminate impurities from the soul. For just this moment, may we visualize ourselves as being like water, being fluid, changing, and growing with the circumstances of life and imbibing the formless, calm, and conscious nature of water. And the next time that we fill our glasses, may we consciously drink with intention, an intention of healing, purification, spiritual wellness, and inner peace, and of gratitude towards the earth. Amen, and blessed be. Each of us here at Granite Peak is part of a circle of community. In this sacred space each week, we take time to hold in our hearts the joys and concerns that we may be experiencing. If you would like to acknowledge what is on your mind, you may come forward and place a stone that represents your feelings into our bowls of water. In doing so, bring the joy that makes your heart sing. Bring your kindness and your compassion. Bring also your sorrow, your pain, your brokenness, or your disappointments. You are safe here. You are surrounded by the love of this congregation. May each of us know that our joys and concerns are supported by the compassion of this community. So may it be. And now let's join together in singing Spirit of Life. You may remain seated. And now we will hear from Reverend Doug.
Working okay? Oh, good. Thanks for returning the stone. I've decided that this talisman is really important for me, and some people think it looks like a fish. Some people think it looks like a dog. I think for me it's become to represent the ancient mariner. And when he can't tell his story anymore except through the poem, it's become one of my responsibilities to tell that story. It's good to be in the sanctuary. Last time I was here, we looked in through an opening into this construction site, and it was a cement floor and drywall on the walls, and maybe no ceiling drywall at all. But I could tell even then it was going to be a wonderful space for worship and community building. So it's good to see it come to fruition, and it is really a beautiful space. So in 1993, I was beginning to feel like my ministry in Washington State, where I was serving First Christian Church of Sumner, Washington, was maybe coming to a conclusion. And I began looking for other opportunities. And so there was a church in Tempe, Community Christian Church, that looked inviting to me, challenging to me. So I interviewed with the pulpit committee. I was reluctant to leave Washington State. We were on the western Washington side, and we had Mount Rainier right in our backyard. We used to say that you could tell what the weather was going to be by looking at the mountain. If you couldn't see it, it was raining. And if you could see it, it was going to rain. So in that cool, wet climate, I was a little hesitant to move to Arizona, and my primary question for the pulpit committee was, doesn't it get absolutely horribly hot here? And I bet you can guess what their answer was. They said, don't worry about that. It's a dry heat. So we made the decision to move here to Arizona, to Tempe. And whenever people would visit, I would, and they'd complain about the heat, I would say to them, it's a dry heat. So 93, 94 was when we could joke about it. 93, the CAP canal was completed, and we would have all the water we'd ever need. In 94, the snowpack was good. 95, 96, snowpack was good. Rainfall was plentiful. It looked like we were going to be fine here. And then 2000 came, and it was a drought year. Snowpack down, rainfall poor. And we began to realize that the measurements of the Colorado River that were taken in the early 90s were really not a good representation of what the future would bring to us. And, despite that, we built Tempe Town Lake, and we're optimistic about it. Next year it's going to be better. Next year it's going to be better. The next year it's going to be better. That was 26 years ago, and now we're somewhere in time of the longest drought we've experienced in the Southwest for 1,200 years. 1,200 years. So we're not quite so inclined to joke about it like we used to. So when there was an opportunity to go on sabbatical, a 3-month sabbatical, and I could choose any theme that I wanted to, I could go anywhere that I wanted to, I decided not to call it, "Don't worry, it's a dry heat." Instead, I called it "Living Water, Source of Life." And the first thing I did was go to Ireland. And I visited all these holy wells there. There are 3,000 holy wells in Ireland. I didn't visit them all, but I visited a lot of them, and I collected water in those sacred spaces. And then I collected folklore about water in that wet place. I learned a Gaelic word while I was there, Ishkabaha. Ishkabaha. It means water of life. Ishkabaha. It's where we get the word whiskey. So I filled up a flask of Ishkabaha as I visited these holy wells, and every time I came to a well in honor of St. Bridget, my favorite saint, I would drink a toast to her. Lucky for me, about 10% of the holy wells in Ireland are dedicated to St. Bridget. So it was a great time. I learned a lot in Ireland, in that wet place. But I didn't realize that the most important lessons for me were waiting for me here in Arizona. I went up to Hopi. I just met Phil, who's here from the Hopi reservation, and he told me that he'll be participating in the snake dance on Hopi later on. So with fear and trembling, I tell you a little bit about my experience on Hopi, and hope that I don't make too many mistakes and an enemy of Phil in the process. So it was called the Paatuwaquatsi Run, which means water is life run. We would run from one sacred spring to another sacred spring, and we would leave cornmeal at each spring as a sign of our prayer and our blessing for this place. So the night before the run, I drove into the Hopi, to the visitors center there, and there was a nice gift shop inside. Glass case with all this beautiful Hopi jewelry in the case. A Hopi clerk came up and said, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yes, I'm interested in the motifs that have to do with water." There were butterflies, there were dragonflies, there were frogs, there were thunder, there was lightning, there were clouds, there were all these beautiful jewelry. And I told her I was interested in the jewelry that had the motif about water. And she was quiet. She didn't say anything for a little bit, and it became clear to me that she, maybe somewhere deep in her heart, was thinking to herself, this must be the stupidest Bahana that I've ever met in a long time. For her, it was clear that I was not from Hopi, where 40% of the households don't have running water or electricity. I was from a place of swimming pools and golf courses and long showers. It was clear that I was not from Hopi, where ancient aquifers were being drained in order to slurry coal by the Paatuwaquatsi Coal Company from the Kayenta mine to the Navajo generating station, where it was used to generate energy to pump water uphill past Hopi villages, past 11 other tribes around the Grand Canyon, uphill to my tap in Tempe, Arizona. It was clear that I was not from Hopi, where the water has been contaminated by uranium mining that is sent down to the Palo Verde generating station that keeps my house cool in the summer. Clearly, I was not from Hopi, but all she said was, in Hopi, everything is about water. Everything is about water. So the next morning we lined up to run. There were about 30 of us, both Bahana, white people, and Hopi people, and some other indigenous folks. Bucky Preston was the originator of the Paatuwaquatsi run. He had seen the trails where the Hopi people would run for generation after generation after generation, sort of decline and be in disrepair. So it was losing that tradition of running and losing the spiritual aspects of running. So he worked to start repairing the trails and initiated the Paatuwaquatsi Water is Life run that still goes on today. So we lined up, ready to go, and Bucky Preston welcomed us all, thanked us for being there, talked about how important it was for us all to be together. He said, what we're doing today is not a race, it is a prayer for life, not just our lives, but the lives of all creation. And then we started the run. We ran down a little bit from the Hopi guest center where we started to a place where these berms had been created. The Hopi still do dry land farming with a little bit of water, and the berms sort of channeled the water, the little bit of water that falls towards the corn, the beans, the squash, the Three Sisters. So we ran along the berm, and then we came beneath this sandstone cliff to a area that had terraces and steps that went down several steps, several terraces, to a little pool of water that I could see glistening in the sunlight there. And the Hopi runner next to me told me that he used to gather here for ceremonies and to gather water. And he pointed to a place 3 terraces higher than where the water is now. And he said, I used to sit right there and dangle my feet in the water. Now the water has fallen 10, 12, 14 feet, and we're afraid it may disappear altogether. Well, the run continued, and fortunately for you, I only made it to 2 of the springs, 2 of the 7 springs. So I didn't make it 30 miles. Otherwise, this message would be much longer. So I decided to walk back to the visitor center where there would be a closing ceremony. And as I did, people just stopped to thank me along the way and offer me a ride to go back to the Hopi Center. The women say, kawale, and the men say, kakoi. Thank you, thank you. I heard it again and again and again. Thank you. And then we gathered for the closing ceremony, and Bucky Preston and other speakers once again thanked us for being there, talking about how important it is for us to work together to face the water shortage and the environmental crisis that we face. And then there was a storyteller that told a story that has haunted me ever since. A long time ago, there was a drought, and the animals and the people were suffering, and it became clear to Frog that as the earth cracked beneath him and became desiccated, he was going to die. So he cried out his song prayer to rain, and it was a beautiful prayer. But his voice was quiet, and rain couldn't hear. Not far away, there was a locust sitting in a mesquite tree, and she too recognized that her life may be at an end if she couldn't find water. And so she offered her prayer song to rain. And it was a quiet song, so it was not heard. And then Frog began to weep, and Locust began to weep, and Frog heard Locust weeping and hopped over to the mesquite tree where the locust was, and they commiserated together. And then Locust said, you know, when people try to do things on their own, they're very seldom successful in accomplishing what they want to do. But if they join together, they can accomplish great things. How about if we sing our song prayer to rain together? And so Frog and then Locust joined together in their prayer, and rain at the edge of the world heard their prayer and rose to the sky and became black clouds, and the rain fell, and the pools filled up, and the desiccated earth turned green again. Bill McKibben, you've probably heard him say, if you know anything about him, when people ask what they can do about the climate crisis, he says, people ask, what can an individual do? And he says, stop being an individual. Join with other kindred spirits who are concerned about the same passions and concerns that you have. Join together. So if you want to know, did you change your mind? Okay. I've asked Nina if she would, she knows more, and many of you know more about many of the groups that are here in the Prescott area where you could get involved. And so Nina, come up.
I'm sure many of you know these, but I wanted to suggest a few things. One is, just before I just read off a few, I did want to mention some Jewish things about water. Every time you drink a glass of water, there's a blessing. And if you care about that, let me know and I'll tell you what to say. Whenever you drink water, or there's special blessings for wanting rain, and when the rain comes, etc. So I'd say get in touch with whatever spiritual traditions you're in touch with, and know that there are water blessings and prayers. You most likely know there's Sierra Club here. There's CWAG. Anyone familiar with CWAG? Right? Citizens Water Advocacy Group. And not only general water issues, but Verde River issues for sure. There's also, my problem was I didn't know what the initials always stood for, but NAZ, Northern Arizona Climate Change Action Group. What is that? Alliance. Okay. Speak with her. And, what I try and do, my favorite color is blue, and I try and remember water when I see blue carpets and blue walls, etc. And without water, we wouldn't be here. So, but I would recommend CWAG, I would recommend Northern Arizona Climate Change Alliance. I'd recognize Sierra Club. Are there others you'd like to speak out about? What's that? Prescott Creeks, for sure. And remember, every drop adds up. So that.
Thank you, Nina. So in November, I'll be one of several storytellers doing a storytelling residency at the Grand Canyon. And we'll be telling stories about that world wonder. And so I'll publicize information about that through Nina and through the church. Nina has been the resident rabbi at the Grand Canyon, so she often gets called up there. One of the sister organizations of Grand Canyon Conservancy is Grand Canyon Trust. So I knew you people would want to say, all right, so what can we do? And one of the things you can do is join some of the groups that Nina talked about, or there are petitions that the Grand Canyon Trust has. So just do a search for Grand Canyon Trust, and there are petitions about uranium mining at the Grand Canyon, petitions about trying to protect the Bears Ears and Grand Staircase Escalante, and groundwater and water in the Colorado. So you can sign those petitions, which is a fairly easy thing as a first step to do. Yeah. Okay. Black Mesa Trust. Okay. So remember, next time you're out hiking through this beautiful country, if you hear a frog croaking, it probably doesn't mean very much. If you hear locust chirping, it may not make any difference. But if you hear frog and locust singing their prayer song together, watch out, because it's going to rain. I love this song, by the way. I want to preach at UU congregations just so I can join in singing Blue Boat Home.
There's your introduction, folks. Our favorite water hymn, Blue Boat Home. We will now extinguish our chalice. Please join me by saying the words that are on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And our benediction is the following. As you leave this place, remember the water that flows through your body, the water that falls from the sky, the water carried by the rivers, and the water carried by human hands. Remember that every drop is a gift, and every gift carries a responsibility. May you walk gently upon the earth. May you cherish what is precious. May you stand with those who thirst. May you become a source of refreshment and hope. And may the blessing of living water flow through your heart, your community, and the world. Go in peace, for water is life, and life is sacred.